What's going on, Phoenicians? Today I'm going to talk about the Emperor's speech. And if you didn't know that the Emperor made a speech on Monday, then I guess you probably weren't following the news. The Emperor of Japan, who's 82 years old, he's been reigning for 28 years. Really nice guy. Very, very nice guy. Very soft-spoken. Not much of an Abe fan, but that's beside the point. He made a speech on Monday expressing, not directly, but rather indirectly, that he wants to abdicate, or at least have a provision available for him to abdicate when he feels like he needs to abdicate. And like I said, he's 82 years old. He's about the same age as my grandparents. He's lived a long life, and he's had a lot of health issues. I mean, he's okay now, but, you know, he still says that, you know, his condition is going to deteriorate and stuff like that, and he doesn't want that to be a burden on both society and the imperial family as a whole. So let's look at this speech bit by bit. And I have two articles pulled up. One from the New York Times here, and the other one is from the Wall Street Journal. And I don't know if you can access this or not, but I'll find some text. This is the full transcript in English from the Imperial Household Agency. Now this speech was 10 minutes long. It was very easy to understand in Japanese. Very surprising, right? And there's a few things that he used in his speech, which I think would make a lot of traditionalists a little bit upset. The first is, anytime he talks about his role as the emperor, he used the word stomeru. Now, stomeru could also be, if you hear the word stomeru, it could also mean work, but it also means responsibility as well, right? So, a lot of traditionalists in Japan think that the emperor is an essence. It's not like a job. It's an essence, right? But the emperor treats it as a responsibility and a role, right? As if he wasn't in the imperial line, he'd be doing something else. Most likely aquatic research, which is what he's well known for, right? So that was very important to know there, that he sees it as a role. Right here it says, "I've always felt a deep sense of responsibility." And it's very interesting how he goes about expressing his role, right? Now, the one thing that he mentioned right here is this paragraph these last paragraphs are very important, right? "In coping with the aging of the emperor, I think it is not possible to continue reducing perpetually the emperor's acts in matters of state and his duties as a symbol of the state. A regency may be established to act in the place of the emperor when the emperor cannot fulfill his duties for reasons such as he is not yet of age or he is seriously ill," which has been done quite a few times over the years. Even though the 1947 Imperial Household Law is different from what was during World War II and even before that, that provision for a regency to be set up has always been there. And for example, Emperor Hirohito was acting as regent when his father, Emperor Taisho, who was very ill, was in power and stuff like that, right? And most of the state stuff was done by Hirohito before he himself accessed the throne. And then even our current emperor right now here in Japan, he did a lot of stuff during the time when Hirohito himself was sick, dying, whatever, right? But current emperor Akihito, he says he doesn't like that. Right here, this is very important. It says, "Even in such cases, however, it does not change the fact that the emperor continues to be the emperor until the end of his life, even though he is unable to fully carry out his duties as the emperor." That's very important to know. The emperor cannot directly say, under this new law, he cannot directly say things that could be misconstrued as influencing politics. But then again, this speech itself is probably the most influential thing he's ever said in regards to policy change, right? Kind of ironically. He basically said that this whole regency practice is not a sustainable option. That's what the translation would be if he was to say that directly, as if the point of the speech was to make a policy change, right? Now, speaking of policy change, right here, from the New York Times article, it says that the Japanese have acknowledged that their emperor is not a god and he's been stripped of all political powers, but he's still felt as a sense of identity, right? Like I mentioned earlier in this speech, the emperor wants his people to let him retire, which I understand, right? From what I've seen is, I think 85 to 90% of Japanese people feel that the emperor should be allowed to abdicate, and that's across the board. You know, left-wingers, right-wingers, whatever, right? Japanese people these days, especially younger Japanese people, see the emperor as, you know, a person, and if he wants to retire from his job, he should be able to do that, right? And that's totally, I think that's a great thing, right? It's a very selfless thing for the emperor to do, in my opinion. Because if the emperor continues to say, I want to be the emperor, even though he is sick, ill, dying, it's going to put a lot of strain on the entire imperial system in Japan, which would be, back he mentioned in the 80s and stuff, when the emperor was dying, or the previous emperor, Hirohito, was dying, people were canceling parties, people were canceling festivals, postponing weddings. Yeah, Emperor Akihito said he doesn't want that to happen. And it says right here, these two paragraphs at the very end are the most important in my opinion. When the emperor has ill health and his condition becomes serious, I am concerned that, as we have seen in the past, society comes to a standstill and people's lives are impacted in various ways. The practice in the imperial family has been that the death of the emperor called for events of heavy mourning, continuing every day for 2 months, followed by funeral events which continue for 1 year. These various events occur simultaneously with the events related to the new era. So if you don't know what that means, basically, this year is Heisei 28, the 28th year of Heisei. Every year since Meiji, or every year since Meiji corresponds to the year that the emperor has been in power. So the Showa 60s were the 1980s, basically. That's what that is, right? And then like Meiji whatever up until 1912, Taisho whatever until 1926 or whatever, right? So that's what that corresponds to, the new era. If you don't know what the new era name is, that's decided after the emperor either abdicates or dies. So that's all corresponding to what he's saying right here. And it places a heavy strain on those involved in the events, in particular the imperial family left behind. And this is the most important sentence right here. This is the most roundabout way of saying, hey guys, change this shit. It occurs to me from time to time to wonder whether it is possible to prevent such a situation. Boom! The most indirect way of Emperor Akihito saying, hey guys, can you change this? Seriously, that's basically what he's saying right there, right? And then immediately afterwards he says, as I said in the beginning, under the Constitution, the Emperor does not have powers related to government. Even under such circumstances, it is my hope that by thoroughly reflecting on our country's long history of emperors, the imperial family can continue to be with the people at all times and to work together with the people to build the future of our country, and that the duties of the emperor as a symbol of the state can continue steadily without a break. Yeah. So basically the emperor is like, let's have this emperor system be more streamlined, more simplified, the transition be smoother. When the emperor passes away or abdicates, the transition's a lot smoother and society is not impacted. That's my thoughts there too. Like, the emperor is being very selfless with this speech. He wants things to go about smoothly, and he doesn't want his death to be a burden on Japanese society and or his illnesses, right? So it's really important to know that the emperor is not trying to just say, hey, let me do what I want to do. The emperor is saying, hey, let me do what I want to do so I'm not a burden to Japanese society, to society as a whole, right? Which is a very good thing for him to do. And I'm fairly certain that the parliament's going to allow him to abdicate. I just don't know when it's going to happen. He mentioned he mentioned through his, what are they called? Chamberlains, right? He mentioned indirectly, and it was reported by NHK, that he wants to abdicate within a few years. So it wouldn't happen immediately. Like, he's doing fine right now. He has plenty on his plate, but basically he just wants Japan to know when that time comes, he wants to be able to step down without trouble, which makes perfect sense to me, right? So that's my thoughts on the whole thing related to the emperor's speech on Monday. It was a great speech, as usual, by the emperor. Very earnest, frank, forthright. I have a lot of respect for that guy. Even though I'm not a big fan of monarchies and stuff like that, the Japanese system is just too long for me to directly say, hey, this is something that shouldn't be existing. The Japanese system does a lot of good work. So, even the guy that's supposed to come after the emperor, Naruhito, he's a nice guy too. There's a lot of, everyone's like, who is he? Is he good? Is he bad? No, he's a great guy. And there's a thing last year, he was jogging with his heavy contingent of security officers just around the moat with other people who like jogging around the imperial moat. So he's definitely a guy that's going to continue our current emperor's tradition of bringing the imperial family closer to the people. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think of them. Leave a comment down below. I will see you on the next video. Take it easy, Phoenicians.